It was supposed to be nothing more than a role. Pretend kisses, stage touches, and fake declarations of love. But no one warned me how easy it is to forget the difference between scripted desire and the real thing once the camera stops rolling. The first time he kissed me, I laughed half out of shock, half to convince myself it was all just acting. But his lips lingered a fraction longer than the script demanded, and that was the moment I realized trouble was already knocking at my door. His name was Ethan Morales, a junior film major with a reputation for perfectionism, a knack for late-night edits, and a face that looked like it was stolen from a Calvin Klein billboard. My name, not that it matters much in this story, was Ryan Carter, theater major, disaster at relationships, and the guy who couldn't even look at himself in the mirror without hearing his father's voice sneering about what a real man should be. We met on the first day of auditions for the student film that would later dismantle everything I thought I knew about myself. Ethan wasn't supposed to audition. He was behind the camera, the director, the visionary. But when the lead actor bailed last minute, Ethan didn't hesitate. He stepped into the role like he was born for it, like he had been waiting all along for the excuse to break his own rules. That was how I ended up standing across from him in a cramped rehearsal room, reading lines that felt suspiciously too close to my own hidden desires. "Do you believe in happy endings?" Ethan asked me, reading his line with that half-smile that never seemed to go away. I forgot to answer. Not because I didn't know the line, but because I couldn't pull my gaze away from the way his eyes held mine. It was like he was asking me, Ryan, not the character, if I believed in something I had never dared to say aloud. From the very beginning, Ethan blurred the lines. The script called for intimacy, for stolen glances and hesitant touches, but Ethan didn't fake it. He didn't play it safe. His fingers lingered on mine during rehearsals. His voice softened when he whispered lines that weren't meant to sound real. Every scene felt less like acting and more like a confession neither of us were ready to admit. But if Ethan was reckless with his heart, I was a coward with mine. I told myself it was all for the film, that the ache in my chest when he smiled wasn't real, that the way my body leaned unconsciously toward him in crowded rooms was just muscle memory from rehearsals. I swallowed every truth I wanted to scream, because the world outside our set wasn't kind to boys like us. Not in the small college town where football was worshipped and any rumor of softness could ruin you. The worst part? Ethan knew. He saw the way I flinched when someone teased us during filming. He noticed the way I pulled back first whenever a scene ended. He knew I was terrified not of him, but of what loving him out loud would mean. And still, he never stopped looking at me like I was worth the risk. The climax of our film, the one scene we rehearsed again and again, was a confession under the rain. A kiss that wasn't supposed to look perfect, but desperate. Ethan pushed me against a brick wall, water soaking through our clothes, his breath hot against my lips as the camera caught every trembling second. "Tell me you love me," he demanded, voice breaking with a rawness that wasn't in the script. "I love you," I whispered, and for the first time, the words weren't pretend. The crew cheered when we nailed the take, but I stood there, heart pounding, unable to meet Ethan's eyes, because I knew I hadn't just acted, I had confessed. That night, lying awake in my dorm bed, I realized the cruel irony of it all. I was falling in love with my fake boyfriend, and I hated myself for it, because when the cameras stopped, Ethan wasn't mine. He was the director, the rising star of our department. The guy who had the whole world in his hands while I was just another face in a crowd that didn't care about soft boys with softer hearts. But Ethan didn't see it that way. He cornered me one evening after class, leaning casually against the doorframe like he owned the world. "You know you weren't acting back there," he said softly. "Neither was I." I froze. Every excuse I'd rehearsed, every wall I had built, crumbled under the weight of his honesty. "I can't," I whispered, though my chest screamed the opposite. "Can't or won't?" he asked, and there was no judgment in his voice, just sadness. I wish I had kissed him then. I wish I had thrown every fear to the wind and claimed him as mine. But instead, I turned away, because sometimes the scariest thing in the world isn't losing someone. It's admitting you want them in the first place. The week after that confrontation, I avoided Ethan like my life depended on it. Which, in a way, it did. Every time I caught a glimpse of him across campus laughing with friends, scribbling in his worn notebook, arguing passionately with a professor, I felt that sharp pull in my chest. A tether I couldn't cut, no matter how hard I tried. The film wrapped. We screened it in a packed auditorium, the glow of the projector casting our faces 20 feet high on the screen. I thought I'd be relieved when it was over. Instead, I felt hollow. The audience clapped. Some even cried. People congratulated us for the chemistry, for the realism of our performances. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know that the boy I had kissed on screen was the same boy I dreamt about every night. After the credits rolled, I tried to slip away, hide in the crowd, vanish before Ethan could corner me again. But he found me anyway, outside under the harsh glow of the streetlights. "You're running again," he said simply. "I'm not," I lied. "Ryan," he whispered, stepping closer. "You don't have to be afraid of me." His voice cracked at the edges, like he was holding back something heavier than words. And then he did something reckless. Ethan reached out, threading his fingers with mine in plain sight of the world. A couple of students walked by and snickered. Someone whispered something crude, and my stomach dropped with familiar panic. I yanked my hand back like his touch had burned me. "Stop," I hissed. "You don't understand. People talk. They laugh. They don't matter." Ethan interrupted sharply, his eyes fierce. "They don't get to decide who we are. You do." "I do." "Not them." But the fear inside me was louder than his conviction. So I walked away. For weeks, I lived with the echo of his words haunting me. And the space between us grew wider, filled with silence I didn't know how to break. Ethan stopped showing up at the coffee shop we both loved. He stopped lingering after class. It was as if he had finally accepted what I couldn't say out loud, that I was too afraid to choose him. Then winter came. The campus was dusted in snow, the streets lined with Christmas lights. Everyone was going home, but I stayed behind, partly for work, partly because going home to my father's sharp tongue and my mother's quiet disapproval felt worse than the cold. One night, bundled in a scarf and too many regrets, I walked past the student theater building. Through the frosted windows, I saw Ethan alone on stage, rehearsing lines to an empty room. I should have kept walking. Instead, I pushed the door open. The creak of it made him look up, and for a moment his face softened, like maybe he'd been waiting for me all along. "You're late," he said, voice low. "For what?" I asked. "For realizing," he whispered, "that some things are worth the risk." I wanted to run again, but my legs carried me forward, up the steps, onto the stage where everything had begun. "Ethan," I breathed, my throat tight. "I'm scared." "I know," he said gently. "So am I." And that was the moment I understood. Fear didn't mean I couldn't love him. Fear just meant I had more to lose. And maybe that was okay. Maybe that was what made it real. So when Ethan reached for me again, I didn't pull away this time. Our fingers intertwined, warm despite the cold theater air. "You're not just my on-screen boyfriend," I said, my voice trembling. "You never were." He smiled then, a slow, brilliant thing that melted every wall I had built. And when he kissed meant it for a camera, not for an audience, but for use, it felt like the world outside could collapse and I wouldn't care. For the first time, I wasn't acting. Months passed. People talked, of course. Some whispered behind our backs. Others were braver with their words. But the thing about love, the real kindness, that it doesn't bend to the weight of strangers' opinions. It grows stronger. Ethan and I faced the storm together, hand in hand at film festivals where our student project unexpectedly gained traction. Side by side when professors raised eyebrows but couldn't deny the talent in our work. Shoulder to shoulder when the stairs in the cafeteria burned a little too long. There were nights I still questioned if I was strong enough. Nights I wanted to disappear into the safety of pretending again. But Ethan never let me. He held me steady, not with grand speeches, but with quiet gestures, the way he tucked a blanket around me when I fell asleep editing, the way he pressed kisses into my hair when I doubted myself, the way he never once made me feel like I was too much or not enough. And little by little, I began to believe that maybe, just maybe, we deserved our own happy ending. The last scene of our lives at college came not on a set, but under a sky painted with stars. We were sitting on the hood of his beat-up car, graduation gowns tossed carelessly in the back seat, the world stretched wide and terrifying in front of us. "So what now?" I asked, my head resting against his shoulder. "We make more films," Ethan said easily. "We tell more stories. Real ones this time." "And us?" I whispered, afraid of the answer. He turned to me then, his eyes shining with that same unshakable certainty he'd had since the beginning. "Us," he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. "We're the only story that matters." And for once, I believed him without fear. Because the truth was simple, after everything we had endured, he wasn't just a role. He was my beginning, my middle, and if I was lucky, forever. The cameras had stopped rolling long ago. But for Ethan and me, the story was only just beginning. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.